Uni live.
And hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to the locker room here on Indie Live, Prego and Independence Live. And I'm joined by a man you might know all the way from Aberdeen. No, it's not Graham Duffy, because funnily enough, Graham is on his way to Aberdeen. I don't know if he's going to see Dave after the show, or maybe seen Goggins cracking after today's the Aberdeen event that they run. But Dave Smith has joined us today. So how's it going, Dave?
Yeah, but all good, all good. Friday, the sun's out, but I'm here with fine company and yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's what you did say before we came on air. But anyway, keep that to the dressing room and don't tell anyone else. In fact, don't tell Neil Lennon, because it might tell the whole wide world. Anyway, if you're watching Neil, hello, hopefully you're well. This is the locker room on Indie Live Radio or Independence Live, whatever you choose. You can hear us or listen to us here until 7 o'clock tonight. Of course, I'm going to do the stupid house rules that I do. Put a comment on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll read your comments out between now and 7 o'clock. Coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, we've got Vinny Ferguson, is a Packet Thistle fan, but also he is a member of the SFS podcast. So he will tell us a bit about that as well. And we'll speak about the playoffs tonight, Dave, because there's a big game, Queen's Park against Packet Thistle tonight. And lo and behold, Graham Duffy's not in the show, Dave, but he's still watching. It's like Big Brother is still watching you. Evening to Nick Walsh and Willie Collum. Well, I don't know what one you will be, Dave, but I will go Nick Walsh, right? Because I've still got hair. So on with the show then. Tomorrow we have a big game, Ibrox. This game, to be honest, doesn't really mean anything. It's like a dead rubber in terms of the league. The league's been won. Celtic won it last week. Rangers will go into this game wanting to defeat Celtic for the final time this season, Dave, because I think Rangers won't like it if Celtic wins the game tomorrow. That means they've beat them in basically every competition this season. So there's still a lot of at stake for Rangers to win the game, but also who will be there next season.
Yeah, it's not a big game, is it? It's not a big game, let's be honest, man, because the job's already done. I mean, all the pressure to certain degrees on Rangers tomorrow, because if Rangers go lose this, I think the pressure is piled on Michael Beale. Now, let's be honest, Michael Beale wants the season over and done with. That's been proven with all the speculation, all the news that's came out, everything that's been said by Michael Beale and his sound bites. He wants the season over and done with. I mean, he hasn't chucked Alfredo Morelos under a bus, in my honest opinion. But the thing about Alfredo Morelos, in my honest opinion, is I think he just wants to see the end of him because of his misdemeanors, the way he goes about the Rangers environment, and also probably Michael Beale wants a fresh chapter within Rangers. So Michael Beale just wants to end this season. But the big thing for me for tomorrow is see if Rangers are serious about this game. Play youngsters, right? Play players that are going to be there next season, 100%. Thoroughly acknowledge that. But play youngsters. Don't start Morelos. You're building foundations into the next season. Or if I was the Rangers manager, I would be building foundations into the next season. don't start players that are going to be out on the scrap heap in a fortnight's time. Play players that you know are going to be there for the next 2-3 years. I mean, Robbie McCrory has been sounded out a lot more recently because of contract extension, Al McGregor leaving, and various other things. Tomorrow's the perfect opportunity for Michael Beale to experiment. That's what good managers do. Experiment. Experiment in the right way. Because you're not going to experiment when it's a title decider against Celtic in this time, 12 months' time. But what you do right now when you know it's a dead rubber is you experiment. You go, right, let's try him there, let's try him there, let's try him there. There's guys in that Rangers team, John Suter in particular, that's failed to deceive at Rangers. This is an opportunity for Michael Beale to show how talented a manager he is, show that he's tactically astute. As for the opposition, as for Celtic, I don't think Ange Postecoglou will have the mentality of let's change the whole scheme about let's make 8 or 9 changes. I think it'll be same again, boys, same again. Now, with Cali coming up in the cup final, and albeit obviously Cali will have a bit of a break because of their failed exploits to reach the playoffs. I think it's a good opportunity for Ange to mingle the team about. I mean, you're playing Rangers tomorrow. As this is a dead rubber again, it is an opportunity, in my honest opinion, to change the books a little bit, not spectacularly, but change the books a little bit, make 3 or 4 changes, see who's capable of being part of the Celtic jigsaw moving forward. So I'm intrigued to see how both managers approach this tomorrow.
Yeah, I suppose like Andrew Postecoglou doesn't know how to, play like a meaningless game. He wants to win a game out the back door, basically, if he was playing tomorrow or tonight. But I wanted to ask you a question, Dave, because a lot of Rangers fans I saw on social media, especially after the semi-final, wanted Riggerbill. Basically, they were saying he shouldn't be anywhere near Ibrox. Now, I kind of said weeks ago, maybe not on the show, I can't remember, but I said weeks ago that if Rangers walks out of this season we're empty-handed, I think the Rangers fans won't be happy, and that's what they're doing at the moment.
I think Rangers fans have been slightly harsh here because, let's be honest, Michael Beale was dealt a bit of a deft hand when he took charge at Ibrox. I mean, he had January window, but let's be honest, if you ask any football manager, what can he do in January to go and reinvigorate the football club, apart from maybe make 5 or 6 signings and hope for the best? You can't reinvigorate a football club in January. You've got to reinvigorate a football club in the summer. And, yeah, I mean, let's be honest, lack of striking options up front. Cholach is, if reports are to be believed, away to go into the scrap heap at Ibrox as well, as is Morelos. So that's 2 strikers that, let's be honest, don't want to be a part of Rangers moving forward, which, let's be honest, this wouldn't have came suddenly, would it? This opened 3-4 weeks ago. This will have been long before the semi-final that these problems started to arise. So it's not just on the park, Amayad, it's off the park as well, because obviously we've seen a lot of issues off the park recently at the club. So, yeah, there's testing times at that club, and I can assure you, I don't think we'll see the days of a decade ago, but nothing surprises you in football anymore. Let's be honest, Michael, this Rangers team is always aging. I think Michael Beale needed the close season to reinvigorate Rangers. Now, if he signs 9 or 10 players that are young, energetic, athletic, fit, have the right calibre to play for a club like Rangers, and still aren't good enough, and they still don't get a winning formula, then if by Christmas time that isn't coming in, I can understand where Rangers fans are coming from. But I mean, let's be honest, Rangers had a lot of momentum after Van Bronckhorst. That momentum died after a few hammerings such as Celtic and Liverpool. And after that, it was a case of Michael Beale trying to say leadership. He done that to a certain extent, but Rangers fans want silverware, and that's the bottom line. But it was going to be far too premature for Rangers fans to go want silverware far too early. I mean, they had a valiant effort against Celtic at New Year. If you remember that 2-each game where there was controversy in the game, but let's be honest, it's a Glasgow derby, never been controversy. Well, if there was ever controversy in a Glasgow derby, it'd be the most boring game we'll ever see, or the most boring derby we'll ever see. So, yeah, I mean, next season will give us the proof in the pudding that we need as to how Michael Beale's tenure at Ibrox is going to end up.
One more thing I wanted to ask you, Dave, before we get into the game, and I saw people on Twitter and on the TV, and possibly you saw it as well. I mean, I've got to ask people watching this program as well, what is this kind of gap that people's on about? Because the thing is, Dave, at the end of the season, they don't say Celtic won the league, but Rangers crossed the gap. So it's every season, and it's a case of when Aberdeen goes to Parkhead and Ibrox and you get beat 2-1. Well, are you going to say, well, we get beat, but we crossed the gap a wee bit today? I mean, I just feel, and people will comment on the show or whatever, but I just feel that the gaps, what is that? You don't get any points for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Michael Beale's been decent enough in terms of dealing with the media, right? Because obviously, as we know, the Glasgow media in particular can be very, not hostile, but I'm trying to think of a better word here. They can be very contagious. Contagious, right? Contagious in a good way, but contagious. And yeah, I mean, you've got to be a specific manager to deal with the Glasgow media in a certain way. But at exactly the same time, Michael Beale has came out with some astonishing comments as well, hasn't he? I mean, he's came out and says Ange Postecoglou mind games, all that kind of stuff. No, Ange Postecoglou is Ange Postecoglou. It's the same as Michael McEwan is Michael McEwan. These guys are normal guys that are doing the best for the respective associations or the respective clubs. And, I mean, yeah, when you look at general context, Michael Beale's took things a step too far at times when he's done press conferences. And that's maybe been a bit of a whack against him in all honesty. But, I mean, when you look at what comments made in the media and all that kind of thing, sometimes you take it with a pinch of salt. Sometimes you overblow it with a balloon and you burst the balloon and say, oh no, I shouldn't have said that. So, yeah, I mean, there's a mixture of things. I don't think Michael Beale's cost himself in glory over some of the stuff he's went and said in the media. But exactly the same time, if he's still coming out with the same stuff about Ange Postecoglou and this gap thing by Christmas time, as well Rangers fans, of course, if they're still coming out with these things by Halloween time, then you've got to really question mentality to a certain extent.
You were talking about Michael Beale. He was speaking ahead of the game today. He says a win would make a win would put us in a right frame of mind next season. Basically, we can't look back at the season gone by because we've not been doing well in the cups. He says it's been a season of disappointments, and we want to end the season well, but we need to focus on the game. Also, he said today that Ryan Jack is back in the squad, and Ben Davis is out of the game. Interestingly enough, Dave, he spoke about Morelos today. He said Morelos would be called upon if needed. Now, I think he's after Michael Beale's come out with these comments last week. Do you think Morelos is actually going to bust a gut for him from now until the end of the season?
Yeah, well, that's my point. Before we elaborate, did he say anything about Sholatch at all?
He never said anything about Sholatch, whether he was out or in,
Yeah. Well, if reports are to be believed about Chowatch, because I know there's been a fair bit of press reports regarding Chowatch, but if press reports are to be believed, then that's two of your main strikers basically wanting out the Ibrox door. Morelos, as you say, isn't going to burst a gut because first and foremost, it's a leadless game, and secondly, he knows he's going to be unemployed in a fortnight's time.
Yep.
He's going to be a free agent. So, yeah, as far as this is concerned, he's not going to do much. He might do the odd sprint or he might do the odd dash, but he'll not look interested. So it'll be meat and gravy for Celtic defence in terms of unless Michael Beale gets a fine tune or gets the man management assignment spot on, which I very much doubt will be the case, then it should be a comfortable enough afternoon for Celtic with the exclusion of maybe the midfield areas or whatever have you. So Chowatch, yeah, it's very interesting to see what's happening with him as well. So yeah, I think it'll be a quiet afternoon as far as Celtic's concerned if they get the overall focus right and if they can concentrate and get the job done. And I can see it's been a comfortable afternoon in general for Celtic.
And to be honest, Dave, that it's the aggregate incentive for Rangers because even though this game means nothing, but they wouldn't want Celtic to come to dominate the game and to celebrate with no fans there because they're in front of 50,000 Rangers fans. So that's, that they don't want Celtic to come in and win the game and celebrate in front of, well, I was going to say celebrate, but no one will be there to see it. But you know what I mean? It's a funny approach to the game.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, just for the viewers, in case you're not wondering, Rangers will listen to summer offers for Antonio Chowatch after knocking back general interest. German and MLS outfits made moves to the striker during the winter transfer window. Those were snubbed by Beale as he chased trophies. But after failing to land any silverware, Rangers are set for a massive clear out with Chowatch being one of them. He obviously has 2 years left in his contract. So, yeah, I'm very surprised to see the team selection tomorrow because if Chowatch plays, that kind of simmer down the rumours to an extent. If he doesn't play, well, curtains will open regarding rumour. Rumour mill will go rife.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's for Celtic. You touched upon it there, Dave. They just want to keep the bandwagon going tomorrow because they've got a big cup final to look forward to in a few weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I think Ange Postecoglou will use the next few games as an opportunity to maybe change one or two things, but I don't think he'll change the whole team. I mean, it will be an opportunity to give some good players some good game time because as Ange Postecoglou will tell you, you can never go with a plan A. You've got to have different types of plans, and I mean that's what's worked an absolute treat for Postecoglou so far is that he's had a variety of options available to him, whether it's through players he's took in or indeed the formations he's inherited.
Postecoglou was asked today, Dave, because he's been nominated for Manager of the Year. We'll touch upon that as well later on, but also in the running was the St Mirren manager as well. And James McPeck. Stephen Robertson, his name went out my head for some reason there, Dave, having a senior moment on the show. But Postecoglou was saying that it's nice to be recognised for the, but this is for the whole group. I think it's testament to the season we're having and the consistency level of the performance. He went on to speak about the game tomorrow. He says, our goal every year is to be champions, but every derby is the same. You want to win. It's a game that means something special to our fans and another chance to make another significant moment for us. And team news tomorrow is James Forrest gets back in the squad and Aaron Moy has got a 50% chance of making the match day squad, and also everybody else is fit and ready to go. So what game make of the comments, Dave?
Yeah, typical France first goal, isn't it? I mean, just a manager that wants to win football matches, and just a guy that knows how to get a winning formula out of a Celtic team. I mean, the fact that they've got players coming back as well is hugely important for him as well. So, yeah, no surprise in terms of what he's saying. He's obviously simmering the media down, and that's something he's done extremely well since arriving at the club.
Yep, and so that's the big game tomorrow in Glasgow. Rangers against Celtic. 50,000 Rangers fans with no Celtic fans at a half-kill kickoff. Again, that is on Sky. Right, let's continue our preview of the weekend's action, and let's go up to Dave's hometown tomorrow. I've just realised that Graham's going up to Aberdeen. Maybe. Do you think he's sitting on the Hibs end tomorrow, Dave, for the Aberdeen Hibs game? I'm not very sure.
Well, I'll annihilate him if he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was only kidding, by the way, Graham, but he's a Maui Mau, the way I can say what I want, but he's still watching. Anyway, Aberdeen and Hibs, it's been a big week for Aberdeen, Dave, the last few days.
Yeah, it's exciting times at the club. Barry Robson got the job, and justifiably so, deservedly so, because he's done a tremendous job since taking joint caretaker charge. And him and Steve Agnew built a very, very strong relationship between the pair of them. So that's obviously been very, very strong as far as Aberdeen are concerned, but they obviously want more. There's obviously a lot of positivity in the club at the moment, both on and off the park. Long gone in the days of Darvel and him handing 6-0. So, yeah, I think that just goes to show you what a good manager can do to a football club, because Barry Robson's obviously kept everybody together. He's united the whole club, which has been a fairly positive thing from his perspective. There's obviously a lot of positive transfer gossip at the minute. Nick and Devlin's been highly linked with the move to Aberdeen. I think that'd be a strong sign as far as Aberdeen are concerned. But the likes of Duke and Miovski, I mean, Alan Burrows just came out in the media, says that, look, if these players are going to go, they're going to go for the value of Aberdeen, which tells you everything you need to know, because long gone are the days where good players are going to wait for cheap money in Scottish football. So that's obviously a very positive analogy as far as Burrows is concerned. But I mean, from an Aberdeen perspective, there's obviously been a positive mood because of what happened in Gothenburg 40 years ago yesterday. It's obviously been very, very positive, and today was a very good reception for the Gothenburg 83 at Pittodrie, and then there was also a dinner for them last night as well. Provided there's no more hangovers into tomorrow afternoon, there'll be the celebrations before the game, and then it'd be a great way for Aberdeen to go and pick up more 3 points in front of the Gothenburg 83. And as much as a big game for Aberdeen, as much as an important game in terms of the analogy and the complexity of the season, I hope it isn't just one of those dirty 1-0s. I hope it's like I hope it's like a 1-0 or a 2-0, but it's a good performance, because if it's a dirty 1-0, as much as it would be good for Aberdeen to pick up all 3 points, it might spoil the day a little bit. I mean, I'm a big believer in dirty 1-0 wins, but I think it would. I think it would I think it would deflect away from the achievements to an extent if it was a dirty 1-0 victory for Aberdeen tomorrow.
Are you going to the game, Dave?
Yeah.
Barry Robson was by the way, if you haven't saw the Gothenburg programme last night, I'm unfortunately missed it, but I think you can still get it on the BBC iPlayer. And I saw the celebrations today that they had a parade at Piccoli with William Milligog and Strachan. So if you haven't saw that, it's all over social media. But anyway, Barry Robson, after the celebrations, he was back in business, back in the game, as it were, concentrating on tomorrow's game. Skaki gives press conference by saying, I made my thoughts clear about VAR after the Rangers game last week. We'll get Dave's take on that in a minute. We have all saw the penalty incident. It's clear. I don't want to keep banning on about it. Hopefully things will get better. Well, we live in hope. He says, first and foremost, I want to win. I am very disappointed when that doesn't happen. But I thought the team was outstanding last weekend for large parts of the game, and we kept to our game plan. I was really pleased with the performance all over the pitch. I thought the subs did really well when they came on. Some of them have been performing high level. He then went on to say, I want to cry and win. I am quite open about that. I want us to win every game we play. That won't always happen. But we have to believe it, and we have to set ourselves up to do that every week. I've been very impressed by Barry Robson since he's come into the job, Dave. Not only when his team goes out in the park, but the way that he speaks to the media as well.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent guy, Barry. He's a guy that obviously has a lot of respect within the club at Aberdeen. I mean, I'll reference an interview that Alan Burrows did with the press after Barry Robson got the job, in fact.
Yeah.
And he was like, as soon as Burrows came in, he was like, I spoke to Barry Robson, and I could tell straight away that he was a man that just loved football, just loved Aberdeen, and a man that just knew how to win things and do well in football. I mean, Barry Robson enjoyed a stellar career at Dundee United, at Celtic, Middlesbrough, but predominantly got all his achievements at Dundee United and Celtic, respectively. Middlesbrough, which is a case of feeling a lot of Scottish boys and hoping for the best, wouldn't it? But yeah, as far as Robson's concerned, he's getting the best out of what was a very promising group under Jim Goodwin. Goodwin had this massive grand plan, which ultimately, through a couple of results, didn't exactly materialise. Barry Robson's been given a very, very good hand through Goodwin. He's also strengthened in the defensive areas where reinforcements were vastly needed, and he's gotten a very good tune out of his Aberdeen team. So hats off to him for that, and here's hoping to keep it going. But see, me and Graham haven't had this debate, but if we had a debate about Aberdeen and Hearts in February and said which team's better, Aberdeen or Hearts, you're saying Hearts every night and day. You're saying Hearts night and day. Now, I'd say Aberdeen.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think I tipped that Hearts to finish third at the beginning of the season, Dave, as well. There was a comment coming in here about the playoff game between Queen's Park and Packet Thistle. Yes, we haven't forgot about that, but I've got to speak about that after 6 o'clock because Vinny Ferguson is coming on and he is going to preview the game, and we are going to preview all the other playoff game at the weekend. Back to the Aberdeen game tomorrow then, Dave. Lee Johnson says Aberdeen have did well this season. I think you have to give them credit where credit is due. But he says, but this is a big game for us, and we will do everything we can to win the game. But to be honest, I think there'll be a bit of a party atmosphere at Aberdeen as well, because of the Gothenburg legend will be at the game. And, you know, apart from last week at Ibrox, Aberdeen's been doing pretty well under Barry Robson as well.
Yeah, we'll be Johnson. Hibs are improving gradually on their way, but I still don't think Hibs are the first article yet. I still think there's a lot of success to come from them. I think they did well to reach the top six, but they've been scared of their teeth to a certain extent. So Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how they get on tomorrow. I think it's a big game for Hibs because if they've got any European aspirations, I think they've got to put on and pick up some form of result tomorrow. So yeah, be interested to see where where they go from here. As far as Hibs are concerned, they're they're decent enough defensively. They're fairly resolute, but at exactly the same time, they are they are kind of struggle for goals. I still think no matter Boyle offers so much to that Hibs team, they've obviously offered a lot of the attack, but they are vulnerable at times as well, which maybe leaves a lot to be desired as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, and also, do you think Duke will be away in the summer?
Um, well, if he's away, it'll have to be for the correct club, in my honest opinion, because Aberdeen have said, look, we won't stand the players' ways, but we won't stand the players' ways on the complexity of they've got to be right value for the club and for the player. And I mean, Duke's a top quality player. I think was it a Premier League club that was in for him? Not Premier League club. Was it
Uh,
Blackburn or somebody? Was it
yeah,
Blackburn?
somebody down south.
Yeah. And then went. The valuation didn't sound particularly great, which speaks volumes about how Scottish football is still, to a certain extent, disrespected. So, what's the valuation for me? Because I know you'll ask the question. Valuation for me is 3.5 million.
Yeah, okay. That wasn't what I was expecting to hear. Was it maybe about five? I would say just because of the
Am
goals
I
he
being am I
scored.
being a bit, am I being a bit soft by saying 3.5?
Well, yeah, it's not like you, Dave. Maybe it's too hot up in Aberdeen tonight.
I roasted.
Maybe that's why you're saying 3 million. I better move on because you might say 2 million soon.
Right, if you say 5 million, we'll go for 5 million.
Okay, then 10 million that is. So yeah,
Well, I'll pay for the new stadium. That'll pay for the new stadium. That seems to be a whole debate about.
I think that's what Aberdeen is really missing because they've got a decent team on the park, decent manager. All they're missing is I'm sorry to say this, but a decent skigging as well.
Now, I've got to watch what I'm saying because I'm under the auspices of the SFA here. But I don't agree by any stretch of imagination about Dave Cormack getting freedom of City. I don't. What's he done?
Has he? Has he got freedom of the city? Yeah,
What's he done at Aberdeen Football Club to merit him
yeah,
getting?
yeah,
Right, I can
yeah.
understand why people are getting it because I had a debate, I had a conversation with a mate about it this afternoon. I can understand why people are getting it. I can understand Ty Cooper, God bless him, getting it. John Hewitt picked up the award, of course, and God bless Ty. I thought it was a terrific tribute in the presentation that they did. But I can't understand Dave Cormack getting it. If Aberdeen went and
Mm.
won if Aberdeen went and won the league or went and reached the last stage of the European competitions under the tutelage of Dave Cormack, I could thoroughly understand that. But Gabby Darvel, yes, Dave Cormack doesn't run the team, and I thoroughly acknowledge that. But Gabby Darvel, who are a
And,
junior outfit,
and two field
uh,
managers.
two field managers, as you say, yeah. Let's be honest, had it not been for Alan Burrows, I'd have been fearing the worst for this third appointment, so I'm not going to lie to you about that. What's he done?
Well, to be honest with you, Dave, I'm trying to get back in your good books here, but I would give you the freedom of Aberdeen before I gave him it. But that's not what you feel in the comments about that one. Dundee United against Ross County this weekend. Big game for both sides because obviously Dundee United had a setback last week by going to St Johnson and get beat 1-0. What do you think of this game, Dave?
I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think Dundee have done this excellently, by the way. Tickets for £10 and £5. Excellent. It could have been very, very easy for Dundee to just go all out and want all the money in the world.
I think that
I think Dundee United have understood. I'll get onto you in a minute. I think Dundee United have understood that they can potentially get a sell it and make twice the money, but charge it at £10.
I think they're hoping for a full house tomorrow, Dave. That's what.
I think it's a sell it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Or there's 3 stands sold.
I think that's Jim Goodwin was talking about this morning at his press conference, and they were saying that it's going to be a full house. Was it 10,000 Carragate holds?
Slightly more than that, but yeah, it'll be about 12,000, I reckon.
Yeah, it's good to see for the Scottish game. But the thing is, like, and this might be an argument for another show, right? But all the games over the next few weeks mean something, right? But where have the fans been all season, Dave?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, if you ask any of the fans that'll be there at Tannadice tomorrow, they'll all go and say cost of living crisis. They will. They will. They honestly will. Right, but at exactly the same time, how the club runs, how the product of the park looks, results, all play a massive, massive part. Right, I've been at Dens Park in Tannadice in the last few years where things have been going right for Dundee United, and they've all turned up in the hundreds of thousands. I've also been at times at Tannadice and Dens Park in I'll even include Pittodrie in this as well. I've been at all 3 stadiums in the press when times haven't gone right. And you've seen crowds of 5,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. I remember Aberdeen played Dundee last year. It was the same day Cove Rangers won the League One title against Dumbarton. And there was 1,600 attendees at Cove Rangers, and there was about 8,000 at Pittodrie. And that's in the same city. And Aberdeen had something to play for. They've been about 15,000 at Pittodrie, and Cove would have got about 900. Yeah, sorry, I thought you were going to go and speak there.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, that just goes to show you that depending on what happens with the product of the football park plays a massive, massive part in it. I mean, I seen somewhere that Dundee was it Dundee? No, it was St Johnstone, wasn't it? St Johnstone, well, there you go. St Johnstone had one of the lowest attendances in a long time from a home perspective when they played Rangers in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah,
because of how things were dealt with in the lead up to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that just goes to show you that what happens behind the scenes plays a massive part in how much people goes.
No, definitely. Jim Goodman was talking about the game today. He said, at this stage of the season, all the games are shugs. We were disappointed last week, but it is a plus for it. But it is a plus for us in this as we're in the same position before the game we went into it last week. He says County had a good result against Livingston last weekend, but at the same time, it's a big 4 games to go. But we need to get back to winning ways. And to be honest, Dave, I think I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say United will stay up this season.
I agree, because Ross County quite simply in a good way just now. There's a lot of issues at that club just now, not in terms of the park, but there's a lot of issues just in terms of Ross County just not finding the correct formula. I think Marky McKay got a bit of the benefit of the doubt last season because he had good players at his disposal. Regan Charles Cook, they built the team around him, and they had another player as well, wide player. Was the Alcavetti? It was, I forgot who the other player was, but yeah, they had a lot of good players at their disposal. But I didn't realise how tight it was at the bottom end of the table. In all honesty, I didn't realise there was only a point in it. So this is what makes tomorrow quite big. In all honesty, because if Dundee can go and win this, it obviously pulls a 4-point gap. But at exactly the same time, a big loss to get onto it, Michael. But I think Johnstone's Mull's a big game as well, because it's an opportunity for either of those teams to pull well clear of the teams around the bottom. So it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow at the bottom end of the league, I can assure you that. But I think as far as Ross County are concerned, they need wins from somewhere. And you're looking at that the games they've got coming up. They've got a very good win against Ulster last weekend, but ultimately, what's hurt Ross County this season is their away form, and if there's no perfect opportunity but to eradicate that when they go to Tannadice tomorrow.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as we say in the business, Dave, it's a 6-pointer tomorrow, and it's not 3 points, but it's a 6-pointer in terms of the way the league is, but also the games as well. Yeah, it's a big game for Dundee United and also Ross County tomorrow, and good luck with and I think it's again it's another big weekend for Dundee United because this weekend is Dundee United is celebrating the 50th anniversary of winning the league. So some of the Dundee United old boys will be at that game tomorrow. So they would want to put on a show for them as well.
Yeah, that'll be another good occasion for the club. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. Was it not the last time they had such a celebration? Was it not the last time they had a celebration where like
They won the good Paul
Hegarty?
Yeah.
Was it not the last time they had such a thing that cost Liam Fox's job that day?
Yeah. They get beat that day. Well, I can't remember who they were playing, but yeah,
I think it
there
was
was
Johnston. I think it was Johnston they got beat by.
was it? Yeah. But yeah, you could be right there, Dave, as
So
well.
here's hoping it's not the same replica. Let's hope it's not the same duplication this time around, because if it is, God, I'm looking forward to seeing United fans.
What about Ross County, Dave? I mean, over the past couple of years, they've done enough to kind of stay up in the division. And then Malcolm Mackay went in there at the beginning. Malcolm Mackay's been in there for now two seasons now, and he started well. But for some reason, they've just went downhill.
Yeah, I think they did too much rebuilding. I think they lost far too many players, and that's what hurt Ross County to an extent. The fact they're based geographically so far up north doesn't help many stretch of imagination, but I think the fact that there was obviously a lot of things going on. I think it was rather interesting because I think it was too big a rebuild. I mean, let's be honest, they've not scored enough goals. They've got a lot of quality in the final third, but they haven't really scored a lot of goals. Defensively, they haven't looked great. Too much disciplinary wise, they haven't been great either. So there's been too much issues, I think.
Yep. Before we get on to the other big game, well, all big games tomorrow, but the game that you were talking about, Dave, St Johnstone against Motherwell, let's go on to another game about Kilmarnock and Livingston. We'll come to Livingston in a minute because I don't know if you saw David Martindale's comments, but he made a few interesting comments and at his press conference yesterday it was, but also Derek McInnes's Kilmarnock is a big game for them, and also they want to keep up that brilliant record that they've got at home this season, apart from the Celtic defeat a few weeks ago. But definitely they've been turning the style on at home, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm interested to see how Livingston are moving forward because there's a lot of chat about obviously their players moving forward. I mean, I think the big thing for Livingston is trying to make sure they keep this entertaining brand alive. I think Livingston will be well and truly fine, but they'll never take anything for granted. David Martindale never takes anything for granted. But I think this could be the last big season for Livingston, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll slowly decline now.
Well, it's funny that you should say that, Dave, because Martindale was speaking about that as press conference as well. But anyway, Derek McInnes has been buoyant by the signing of David Watson has signed a new deal for the club. So I think that'll be a bit of a boost for Kilmarnock tomorrow and then going forward. also went on
Yeah,
to say, yeah,
I've seen David Watson play. Good player. I see him from he played for Kilmarnock against Montrose in the cup. He was quite a good player and got himself about. So I've been quite hasty to Kilmarnock this season in terms of the fact that they haven't been able to get forward as much. They've been playing they've been playing a typical depth with Chris Wayne, all honesty, but I'm a big fan of the guy David Watson. I think he's played I think he's game was or some in a few games as well. So he's one for the future, definitely.
He always, Dent McKenna says it's great for the club that he's saying it's a good bit of business. And then they went on to speak about the game. He says we've had a good week of training, but we need to take advantage of it. We at home and we want a good win. We want a good win at home. Dave, I wanted to ask you, obviously that we've not been on the show together, but for a wee while, and me and Graham's been talking about this last week, and I don't know how you feel about this. Kilmarnock got Derek McInnes, what was it, a 4-year deal back in November and December time. Do you think Kilmarnock was a bit hasty of giving him that contract at that time?
I mean, stability is a good thing in football, isn't it? But 4 years of football shows you're making a statement. It shows you're very much wanting to back that manager, back that player, which they've very much done, Kilmarnock. At exactly the same time, I'm driving them as a balance here. Well, if I'm speaking about it from a Kilmarnock persuasion, I think there should be a balance here. I think, yes, back your manager. Yes, show your manager you fully believe in what he's doing at the club. But 2 years max, maybe 3 years maximum, right? Balance out the remaining wages of that extra year to give Derek McInnes the budget he requires to get good players in. Because for me, the books are quite odd. You've put so much money in the back of the manager. You've put very little money in a transfer budget for Derek McInnes to go and buy in players, and it's never a good strategy to have.
Okay, let's move on now. Debbie Martindale was very open yesterday in this press conference, Dave. Something like you were saying earlier on about Livingston might get crying that season. He says, I'm going to lose a lot of good Premiership experience at the end of the season. And do that, and we do that every season. It's getting more difficult for people to look for higher wages. But once at Livingston, as an issue, the financial side of things. He said we're going to lose 3 or 4 players, and I remember he was speaking about the game tomorrow. He says, I don't think we've been good enough this season. I think that the main headline to take out this press conference yesterday, Dave, was speaking. He's very honest when you listen to Martindale speak, and he was quite honest about that. The life expectancy of a player at Livingston would be a maximum of 2 seasons at the most, because the financial side is not there. And it's going back to what me and Glenn was talking about last week about you need a fan base to generate that income, and they've not really got that, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of problems. Obviously, it's not just been the here and now, is it? There's been issues for a long time. I mean, they had the Menlo Bank thing. It's been Evanescent and Cali. It's a bit like that, is it? Because obviously they lost a good bit of their fan base through what happened with that back in the 1990s. Livingston's very, very similar in that regard. Well, obviously the changes they've had and the administration problems that they encountered, and they've never thoroughly recovered from that. I mean, when Livingston got relegated back in 2006, we thought we'd see maybe the end of them in terms of being in the top flight, but obviously football works in mysterious ways, and obviously Livingston got their promotion back to the Premiership through being together, David David Hopkins, the superb John Martindale was also a huge part of that at the time as well, being a coach. So that just goes to show you how Livingston do look to be forward thinking. But the issue here is, I'm not saying that Martindale will leave tomorrow morning from Livingston Football Club, but how do Livingston go forward after Martindale goes? That's the big question for me. And I mean, can we see Livingston bouncing back if they weren't going to the Championship? That's a question for me that I would be struggling to answer as well. So, yeah, I think Martindale is a great point. I can't remember which podcast or which interview he did, but players there, like, let's say, for example, your normal working week wage for your typical joiner, your plumber, is £500 a week. That's what Livingston are getting to play in the top flight of Scottish football. That's the lowest budget in the league by a country mile, because there's players in the Scottish Premiership that will be on four-figure fees a week. So that just goes to show you where Livingston are at just now, unfortunately.
Well, we did say as well that they had to get a pay cut this season as well. So God only knows what they're getting as well. A big shout out to David Martindale actually, because I don't know if you saw the video on Twitter that Sky put up. I think it was. It went into a men's jail and spoke about his experience of him rebuilding his life since he's come out of jail. So I don't know if you saw that, Dave, but fair play to Sky for doing it, and fair play for David Martindale to go on. He's a very honest and open guy, so I kind of commend him for doing that, because it was brilliant to see. Okay, so let's move on to speak about the game Dave was talking about earlier. And again, this is another 6-pointer. More so for St Johnstone than Motherwell, you would have to say, but Motherwell fans will be chucking sins at the computer when I'm saying that. But St Johnstone against Motherwell tomorrow. Stuart Kettlewell was talking about this game, and he was talking about Kevin Van Veen getting nominated for Player of the Year. He says it is an amazing achievement for Kevin to be nominated, and he deserves it. But I would love to see him win it. But it's up to the players. And he went also on to speak about the game. He says we've not played St Johnstone since I've took over as manager. But I find hard to believe, Dave, that St Johnstone not played Motherwell since he's come in as manager. But he says it is an important game for back. Every game is important, and tomorrow is no different. So let's speak about St Johnstone first before we go on to Motherwell. Yeah, Cam Davison get the sack a few weeks ago. I think everybody's still a bit stunned and surprised about that one, Dave. But nevertheless,
it's a results business, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the bottom line here. I didn't realise this. I've made my point in a column about this. I didn't realise how there was basically a difference in relationship between fan base and Carl Davidson. Now, St Johnstone and Livingston is not the biggest fan base, but a quick scuffle through Twitter, and I realised very, very quickly that Carl Davidson was falling out of favour with St Johnstone fans.
right. It's hard to believe, Dave.
Yeah. It was more, it isn't because of what he's done to St Johnstone Football Club. It isn't legacy. It has nothing to do with that. It was the way in which Johnstone were playing their football. It was the way in which Johnstone weren't carrying on the fine work and the trepidation from earlier in the season, the trajectory they were going on. They obviously had some very good performances earlier in the season against Celtic and Rangers, respectively. But then they had a few underwhelming performances in February, March time, and that's what was annoying a few St Johnstone fans. Ironically, was it not a Motherwell game that Carl Davidson saw his daughters?
It
was Motherwell or Kilmarnock?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but what I was going to say to you, Dave, was I know you're saying St Johnstone fans wasn't happy, but would you take ugly football and still win the double?
A lot of people have referenced that from a St Johnstone fan perspective, that double.
Yeah.
But at exactly the same time, yeah, football can be scarce, yeah, football can be fickle, but at exactly the same time, supporters are thinking about the here and now. What supporters are referencing isn't about the double. It's more about the fact that Carly ran out of steam in the playoffs last year for St Johnstone to remain in the Premiership. And then this season has been a bit better, but nothing spectacular. And that's where St Johnstone fans are looking at everything and going, look, it's time to make a change here. And you've got to remember here, it needs something extremely serious for St Johnstone to sack a manager, because that's the first manager Steve Brown's had to sack since taking over as chairman. He's not done that in 20 years.
Yeah.
2 decades he's not sacked a manager.
Yeah, no, exactly. So Stephen McLean has come in, skeggied the ship a wee bit, but they've still got a lot of work to be done. And to be honest, they're not out of it, Dave.
No, but I think they can take a giant leap to it tomorrow. And I say giant leap because obviously they're, after the reported win against Dundee United, they're obviously 5 clear ahead of this game. And yeah, when you take things into consideration, they've done a lot of good work. As far as tomorrow is concerned, they play a Motherwell side that again they'll be fancied to get some form of result. I might actually have an interview with you of McLean. I'll see if I can get it for you. My mate was at the game, so I'll see if I can get something for you actually. But that just goes to show you where St Johnstone are at. Maybe they did hit a bit of a stale patch with Davidson there. I made the point on Vegan. Vegan kind of disagreed at the time regarding Stephen McLean kind of chased the fortunes, but I looked at what Stephen McLean was saying. I looked at what Stephen McLean was saying when he was doing the press conferences when they took charge at St Johnstone initially, and he came across with a totally different mindset, a totally different terminology, a totally different body language in comparison to Carl Davidson. And I thought about it then and went myself and went and said, he can go and do a good job here. Because I think as much as you don't read much into press conferences from an outside perspective, or even a press perspective for that matter, I still think you get a rough idea how a manager's going to go and work at a club based on what they're saying, because their way of thinking, the way they speak to people, their approach to things is vitally important. Here was Stephen McLean after the game last Saturday.
You mentioned 17 shots today, first clean sheet since the 1st of February. How much does that please you as well?
Thanks for telling me that. No, listen, it's great, but I spoke about we don't just defend as a back four or a midfield three, we defend from the front. And also, Big Gordy scored a goal as well, so it's a collective at this club. We don't work as individuals. You've got to be good as a group. So I'm delighted for everybody.
Potentially going on the run, you're 6 points off 7th place now. Is that really just an aim to finish as high as you can?
Yeah, I want to just concentrate on Motherwell next week. I'll watch their games and we'll work and training on Motherwell, and we'll look forward to it and just go after them and try and win the game.
There we go. That was Stephen McLean. Based on what you said there, you wouldn't have got it under Carl Davidson. It'll have been about how they got the job done, about how the performance was good enough. But then when they weren't playing well, there was still that negativity I felt about Davidson. Not because he's a negative football guy, but because he demands a certain different standard to McLean. Now, football managers are inclined and they're renowned for thinking different ways but singing on the same hymn sheet. And I think that was exactly how it proved to be with Davidson and McLean.
Okay, so as for Motherwell, Stuart Kettlewell has done a brilliant job since he's come in, Davey. He's actually turned them around this season. Unfortunately, they never make the top 6, But I think if Kettlewell was given a full season, I think they would have been up and about the top 6. So how do you think Kettlewell's been doing since he's went into Fir Park?
Very well. He got off to a fantastic start, didn't he? He got off to a great start. What a great run.
He got a decent point at Celtic a few weeks ago.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. It was a very good point. That just kind of shows you where they were at the time. So hats off to them for that. And here's hoping that continues. You've had enough of me speaking tonight, so I'm going to pass you on to the legend that is Vincent Ferguson.
So we'll come back to speak about the St George's Hearts game in a minute or two, and we are now joined by. I think I'm getting terrible feedback now. I don't know why it is. I'm hearing. Yep, my producer has just muted me, and oh yes, I'm back. I can hear myself once. That's enough times. I don't need to hear myself 5 times. St Mirren against Hearts. We're going to come back to the Premiership games, but I've told you that we have got we're going to dip outside the Premiership for a wee minute or two, and we've got a very happy, nervous Packet Thistle fan, and never to go until the big game. Vincent Ferguson, thanks for joining us on the show, Connect.
No problem at all. It's lovely to see you again, Michael. It's been a wee while, but nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. Yeah. Obviously that I asked you to come on the show to speak about the big game tonight, or as some people call it, the second biggest Glasgow derby tonight. But let's kick off with a bit of sad news yesterday that Packet Thistle manager Chris Doolan's mum has sadly passed away, and he won't be at tonight's game because Paul McDonald, the assistant manager, took the press conference yesterday. So it's a bit of sad news going into the game, Vinny.
Yeah, it was actually it's Doolan's dad, Lawrence, who passed away, unfortunately. So my condolences to the family. Chris is a well-loved legend at Partick Thistle, so I'm sure the thoughts of all the supporters and all the club are with him and his family at this sad time. And in terms of how that will impact on the game, I'm not so sure it will. Too much. Paul McDonald's, a very experienced guy in terms of coaching, and both he and Doolan have been lauded for the way that they set the team up for games. So in terms of actual management from the sidelines, I don't think we rely on that so much these days, given the way that the team know the plan, they know what needs to be done well in advance of the game. So hopefully it won't have too big an impact on the game, but ultimately that doesn't really matter. It's sad news. My thoughts with the family.
Yeah, my apologies there as well. I got a bit mixed up, so I'm very sorry about that as well. But yeah, thoughts and prayers to the Doolan family at this time. As you're saying that is a legend at the club and still is a legend as well. Got to speak about a few games, about a few points about the game tonight. But also I wanted your take on Ian McCall getting sacked after the game at Ibrox. I know it was ages ago, but we haven't had you on the show. But I wanted to touch base with you on that one. Before we get into speak about the game, then Paul McDonald was speaking yesterday. He says, "Yes, think we are going well. Think we are going well. The training is going well, and we have a happy group. And the message will be the same as Tuesday night. Just go out and win the game, and hopefully defend a bit better. and for Owen Coyle said before the game that we're looking forward to it, and it's a great opportunity to win and move on, but we need to be at our best first and foremost, and we need to take advantage because we are at home, well, our temporary home as well. So I'm not just saying this because you're on the show, Vinny, but I actually tipped Packet Thistle a few months ago actually to make the playoffs, believe it or not. Misket Meg, that just call me Misket Meg, you know. But yeah, so how impressed have you been with Packet Thistle this season?
Oh, to be honest, Michael, it's been a bit of a funny season. I think when I saw the squad that we'd assembled in the summer, I was really feeling very confident about our chances of getting promoted. Obviously, I mean, you alluded to it there about the sacking of McCall. It came a bit late, to be honest. I think there was a run of games where we lost a crazy amount of goals. I think did we lose 6 in a row or 7 in a row from October onwards? You know, that was probably the time when he should have gone. A lot of people who, you know, had maybe not been paying that much attention to the Thistle results, but obviously saw the score and the performance in that Scottish Cup game at Ibrox and then the subsequent sacking were very confused. And it wasn't, McCall's departure wasn't in relation to that game at all. That was a bit of a final swan song for him. But yeah, I think you see with Doolan and McDonald coming in, just the fact that the players have a plan going to each game. It's not just the same tactic regardless of the opponent. That you're really seeing the capabilities of the squad now. It's just a shame, you know, just before McCall left, we lost 2 home games in a row to Cove and Hamilton, who obviously and at the time were 9th and 10th in the league. And losing both those games, if we'd won both those games, we would be champions. You know, sliding doors and ifs, buts and maybes. And it's maybe a bit simplistic to say that, but I think it's indicative of how wasteful we were under McCall. And, you know, this league was there for the taking this year. And, you know, Dundee managed to crawl over the line. But I think the fact that Gary Bowyer got sacked just shows that they fell short of their expectations as well, even though they won the league. So it's a shame that it was there for the taking, and you know, McCall didn't have the capabilities to do it. He's never won this league. So yes, I think his sacking came a bit too late in the day, unfortunately.
We've got a comment here saying that it's always a fun season at Firhill, and yes, it is a nice stadium at Firhill. But I think you would agree with me, Vinny, that if only Packet Thistle got money to build another stand bingo goal, it would be a decent wee stadium. It is a decent stadium anyway, without that stand, but I just feel as though that would make a good kind of atmosphere, because you're kind of missing that behind the goal. Going back to Ian McCall just for a minute, I don't want to bring up nightmares for the Packet Thistle fans and whatever, but do you think that the board or Packet Thistle got the timing absolutely wrong on this one? Because they went to Ibrox, unlucky not to win the game, by the way. And then I think it was 9 o'clock that Sunday night I get the sack. But were you a bit confused?
Yeah, the timing was a wee bit weird, and the funny part of it was that Thistle women were playing a Scottish Cup tie at the same time, or the games overlapped slightly. So Brian Graham, who's obviously our number 9 for the men's team, and he's the women's manager, applauded the fans at full time at Ibrox, then raced over to Petershill for the women's game, and myself and my son did the same. In order to go and attend that, and I have stadium announcer duties to do at the women's games as well. So we raced over, and I was literally just about to announce a substitution in the game, and then one of the volunteers at Thistle just shouted over to me, "McCall's been sacked." And that way, I've got the microphone in my hand. I'm like, should I say something? And a very brief chat with Brian Graham at the end of the game. He seemed as shocked as anybody about the news. So the timing was a little bit strange. But like I said, I think in terms of the big picture, it wasn't entirely unexpected. But yeah, immediately after the game was a bit strange. Maybe they could have waited to the Monday.
Yeah, no, exactly. So Queen's Park against Packet Thistle. Obviously, I don't know if you were at the game on Tuesday night, but as a kind of outside person, and a man at work for the media, I thought it was a very kind of, well, you might say the opposite here, Vinny, but I thought it was a very end-to-end game.
It was a wild game. To be honest, we could have been 2-0 down after 5 minutes. David Mitchell makes a brilliant save, and then there's one cleared off the line as well. We didn't have a good start to the game, and as soon as we went 1-0 up, it looked like we would, dominate. Queens looked flatter and flatter as the game went on, which you would maybe expect after the Friday night that they had the disappointing Friday night, and then just silly goals that we lost. To be honest, one's a wicked deflection, the other two, the defending's not great on them. But I think Chris Doolan summed it up nicely in his post-match stuff, saying that's why you keep Brian Graham on the pitch, because they can just pop up. So it was a dramatic evening, and having the women's team lost a 96th minute winner to Celtic on the Sunday, so there was some poetic justice in the fact that Brian Graham got a 97th minute winner against Queen's Park a couple of days later. Yeah, no, exactly. And obviously, we're going to speak about the women's game later on in the show. That you've got a big game this weekend at Petershill Park against Hibs, with a 4:10 kickoff in that one. As I say, we'll speak about the women's game later on as well. So what Paul McDonald says more of the same, but also he backed up by saying we need to shut the back door tonight. Would you agree with his comments? Because I thought it was a decent performance by Packet Thistle, and a decent turnout as well. Yeah, despite the price of tickets being set at £20, it was a good turnout. Unfortunately, I think it's the league that set the prices for the playoffs. And I think Paul McDonald's got it spot on. I think going forward, we look good. Kyle Turner's hit form at the right time. Aidan Fitzpatrick came on, and that was an interesting change. Stuart Bannigan, one of our midfielders and stalwarts, got injured in the first half, and Doolan put a very attacking player in Aidan Fitzpatrick on in his place. So that raised a few eyebrows at the time, but Fitzy was excellent. And it's interesting about the defence. My cousin, who's a Thistle fan, he lives up in Aberdeen, and he was messaging me during the game. He was watching it on the telly, and when it was 3-1, was sending me messages about how excellent our defence looked, how accomplished it looked. And then obviously we capitulated a wee bit there. But yeah, we saw it through. It's exciting, if nothing else. Yeah,
and Brian Graham, you mentioned him as well. Brilliant goal that he scored as well. You'll be hoping that he'll be on the ball tonight, padding the punt and score a few goals.
Yeah, exactly. Hoping that he does the business tonight. But on that note, Michael, I'll need to love you and leave you just now, because we, as a family, we were making preparations. Need to get my son to football training and then back in time for kick-off. So It's been lovely to chat to you, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no bother. Hopefully we'll speak to you in the Premiership next season.
Well, here's hoping. You take care, Michael.
Cheers, Vinny.
Bye.
Bye. There you go. That was Vinny Ferguson joining us live before the game tonight. Packet Thistle and Queen's Park. The game is on BBC Scotland channel at 7:30. And Goose by luck, Dave has been subbed once because Vinny was on. Now Vinny's off. Now Dave is on for bad behaviour. So there you go. I don't know if Dave was away for a pie in the bottle or whatever. But there you go. But yeah, so what do you think of this game tonight, Dave? Queen's Park against Packet. So I was saying to Vinny that you know, it was a very entertaining game. The first game. Are you expecting something similar tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as this is concerned, I mean, I think about another good game. Queen's Park score goals, as Billy said, but exactly the same time they're vulnerable to conceding as well. If you're going to ask me to call a winner right now, I think it's Partick Thistle, because I think Partick Thistle have a bit more about them. They're a bit more streetwise, both on and off the ball. I think just now, which could be a big thing as far as the Jags are concerned. So if they can get the right formula, I think they'll have enough about them to go win.
Yeah, I think so. I think if Queen's Park would be get beat tonight, I think they would be disappointed. But at the same time, Dave, they should be happy with what they've achieved this season.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Queen's Park have kind of exceeded their own expectations to a certain extent. I mean, they weren't really expected to be in the playoffs. We had Dempster's even went and admitted to themselves that they've kind of exceeded their own expectations and they're well ahead of schedule in terms of where they wanted to be right now. So the fact that they were on the horizon of Premiership football just tells you everything you need to know about the upward trajectory at the Spiders. And as much as this season there's a slight disappointment not holding out and going at the finish line at exactly the same time, it might have been a step too far for them at this stage of the project, because I know there's obviously been a fair bit of criticism directed towards the club after obviously Dundee getting promotion or Dundee winning the championship, especially with Dundee not exactly firing on all cylinders recently either. But at exactly the same time, I think from a Queen's Park perspective, I think if they'd gone over the line, I think there'd have been a lot more work that had to go on. Can I be honest with Graham here? And I'm not. I'm going to just come and show this up. I'm the League One expert, Graham. No, I'm not surprised. Airdrie's the best team I've seen this season. League One. They're the best team I've seen in League One this season. Falkirk are a good side as well, but Airdrie will pick off teams at Excelsior. The guy Gary McGill, he's underrated in my honest opinion. I think Gary McGill could get a game for a team in the Premiership. I honestly could. I think he could get a game for St Johnstone, a Motherwell, a Kilmarnock, a Ross County. I think he would get a game for a lot of Premiership teams. I like the guy very well. They've also got the guy Carl Gallagher as well. So that's obviously taken a lot of time. They obviously played Falkirk. They obviously played us last weekend. But they played a lot of boys. They played a lot of young boys in preparation for that game on Tuesday. Then obviously later on to tomorrow. So they couldn't really read a lot into it, in all honesty, because they made 9 changes from obviously that cup semi-final. But I think this is maybe a step too far as Falkirk are concerned, because it wasn't as although Falkirk were playing terrible. Some of the goals, I don't know if you've seen the goals, Michael, but some of the goals conceded were just pitiful, to say the least. So I don't think it was based on hangovers or anything. I think it was based on a very poor night's work.
No, I've not saw the goals as of yet, Dave, but I've saw John McGlynn's interview that he gave to Falkirk TV after the game, and it was very, very down as well. But he was quite honest. He said that, look, we're out. We need to, for the second game, that we need to score another goal, but that's not enough. So at least he was quite honest as well. And I mean, I was going to invite our Falkirk fan on the show tonight, but I thought, no, that's a bit cruel, because he came on after the semi-final defeat to Inverness, and I was going to ask him on after the 6-2 hammer and during the week, and I thought, no, that's not fair. That's not very nice of me to do that. Maybe if Falkirk win tomorrow, I might invite him back on the show, but they need to score a goal a minute or something to get back in the game. Hasper Stumble says, got to go. Have a good weekend, folks. Have a good weekend to you, and hopefully Packet Fizzle will be up in the Premiership next season. Of course, he's got another hurdle to play. I think it's Tuesday night, isn't it? Dave, the winner plays Ayr United.
Yeah, second leg next week, so winner will play Ayr United. Another side that have done really, really well this season, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that will all unfold.
Yeah, no, exactly. As you say, Falkirk against Airdrie tomorrow. Airdrie is winning 6-2 from the first game. Just touching upon the other game there, before we go back to the St Mirren Hearts game tomorrow. Of course, that was interrupted because we had Vinny Ferguson on the show, a big Packet Thistle fan. I didn't realise that he was an announcer at the women's games, but that's good to hear as well. Craig against East Fife, Dave.
Yeah, that'll be another good game. I mean, Clyde, I think it's some very good results against teams this season, especially in the latter end of the season. Let's be honest, from our perspective, we knew it just wasn't good enough. We all take accountability and responsibility for what's happened, and we're working hard around the clock. I know Ryan and Jordan have implemented a positive atmosphere behind the scenes and all that turn things around for next season, but obviously you asked the question about Clyde. I'm not here speaking about my own club, I'm here to speak about Clyde. And, as far as Clyde are concerned, they've had a few last minute levelers, they've had a few big wins recently, so they've obviously came at this playoff fairway with a lot of confidence. They got a very good win over East Fife on Tuesday there, and that will come into tomorrow. East Fife might just be a step too far for them, but for Clyde, I mean, they're not a side that score a lot of goals, but they're a side that are actually a very, very good side defensively. And if I think Jim Duffy's kind of used his experience to kind of tidy the ship a little bit, because let's be honest, things just got a little bit precarious under Danny Lennon a little bit. So I think as far as Clyde are concerned, I think they've got a lot going well for them just now. But if you asked me the question 4 weeks ago, Michael, who do you think will stay up, or who do you think will go up, or whoever out of the League Two race, I'd have been saying probably Aaron. Now, I think it'll be an Aaron Clyde final, but I'm fancying Clyde to stay in League One. Considering some of the rumours that we're hearing about that League One teams just now, it could be a big season for whoever either goes up or stays in that League One next season.
What about the last game tomorrow, Dave, in League One playoffs? Hamilton against Alloa, and after the first leg, it is 1-0 to Alloa. I fear a bit for Hamilton.
Yeah. Aside that just don't score goals, do they? And then whenever they do score goals, they tend to concede loads in subsequent manner as well, which just tells you. Well, I've lost my phone going off there, which tells you everything you need to know about the fact that Hamilton just can't find that balance right now. They're a side that show a lot of creativity, a side that show a lot of imagination. Pardon me, excuse me, but they're a side that are well cut adrift, open defensively. Things aren't good on the park here, off the park, sorry there. I don't know if you noticed, Michael, but there was comments made by the Hamilton chairman in correspondence to obviously the fan engagement and how there was maybe an investor taking over and how he was put off by fans, which, being honest, I can see there's truth in that story, but I find it very astonishing that Boy McGowan, the chairman of Hamilton, isn't elaborating on what the actual issue is, rather than point.
Yep, no, definitely, Dave. So that is the playoffs this weekend, and they will continue next weekend then for the next couple of weeks. Let's go back into the Premiership there. We have one game to talk about, and that was Graham's beloved Hearts. They are away to St Johnstone tomorrow, and Stephen Robertson has been nominated as Manager of the Year for the Saints. Before we come to Hearts, disappointing season for Hearts, obviously, but what about St Mirren? Total opposite season, Dave. They make the top 6. It's a brilliant season.
Absolutely fantastic season from St Mirren. They've been very, very good over the piece. I mean, it was kind of a bit of a carbon copy to the work that Stephen Robertson had done at Motherwell. In terms of the players they had, the formula they had, the ability to go and be consistent over the piece, and they've done a lot right. Pardon me, it's not like they've had a lot of big household names involved in them either. It's been typical St Mirren, hasn't it? I mean, they've had players, they've had sides that they've maybe been rejects elsewhere, if that's a right way to put it, but they've came at St Mirren and fully integrated themselves into what they're all about. I mean, for a club like St Mirren to reach the top 6 is a significant achievement because they're not a club that are renowned for making the top 6. And it probably just shows you because Marco Harris enjoyed a very, very good season. This might be a bit of a weird reference to make, but he's a big Alan Campbell to a certain extent. In terms of Alan Campbell had the same success with Robinson as at Motherwell, and Alan Campbell got a very, very good move to England after that. I can see clubs sniffing around Mark O'Hara down the line, whether it's summer or in future. And I think Mark O'Hara can easily play in England, probably championship level. So I can see parallels there.
Yeah, no. It was. I kind of know Mark. I kind of know Mark, and it was down at England a couple of seasons ago. Before he got the move to Motherwell, and then when he was down in England, I'm not sure what team it was at. I can't remember, but it was loaned out to a non-league team, and they won the league as well. So he's actually got a winner's medal for being so young. I think Mark is 27 now, but he's been about in the Scotland game. Dundee, he started off at Kilmarnock. Obviously, he wasn't well. Nobody kind of recognised him there because I was Alan Johnson that was the manager of Kilmarnock at the time. He was playing in defence, and then obviously he went to Dundee. And now at St Mirren as well. I think I did see during the week that he might be in the running for the St Mirren Player of the Year. So we just have to wait and see. But yeah, I totally agree with you. He's been a brilliant player and scoring goals for fun. And I would be interested to find out that who has scored against Celtic and Rangers. And being so young, because he actually scored against Rangers. I think he scored twice against Rangers for Dundee, and they scored against Celtic before the World Cup. I think he scored a penalty. But yeah, you're right. He's got a big future in front of him as well. Good evening to Thomas Boyd. He is watching on YouTube. Thanks for watching, Thomas. And keep your comments coming in as well. So as I say, Stephen Robertson has turned the club around in the run for the manager of the year. But you mentioned about Mark O'Hara. There's Curtis Main. There's got a few decent players in that squad. And Dave.
Yeah, totally. I think they've got a good. I don't think they're all about individuals either. I think they're all about the team. And I was saying something exactly that was the same with him at Motherwell. Because let's be honest, either club, they've not had players, they've not had players that they've looked at and went, they've took the game by the scruff of the neck. Now, Curtis May loves the way Stephen Robinson sets up because, let's be honest, he's a bit like Ruth Van Nistelrooy whenever he plays for Motherwell St Mirren under Stephen Robinson. But, I mean, this is what good managers do. They get the best out of players that could be described as mediocre, described as not good enough at certain clubs, but they come into environments that he implements and they become big players. And let's be honest, I think Stephen Robinson's a good Scottish football manager. He's a guy that, had it not been for Barry Robson, the job he's done, I'd have took him in happily at Aberdeen. And that's high praise for me to the job he's done at both St Mirren and Motherwell respectively, because Aberdeen would have far higher superior budgets. So yeah, I think that just kind of shows you the job that he's done at St Mirren, but at exactly the same time he's signed good players in the correct areas. Was it the guy? No, I forgot his name now. Ainya or something? Ainya? No.
Yeah, up front, yeah.
Yeah. He's been really, really good for him as well. So, yeah, he's obviously brought in the correct calibre of player, but also brought in a good identity to St Mirren as well.
I've just remembered, Dave, before I forget, Mark Arrow went to Peterborough for the season down there. Okay, looking at the managers tomorrow, Stephen Naismith was talking about the game, and he said that we have the same way we want to play. We digged it well against Ross County, and we dig it well against Celtic. And reminder of the games, we want to play well and win as many games as possible, and that's what we will do. The style I want to have, like the way I want to play. But when you play out of possession, then that's when you're going to complicate your system and the team. And Memi goes on to say we have a plan that comes for this weekend's game against St Mirren. So what do you make of Stephen Naismith since he's took over the caretaker role at Hearts, Dave?
I'm going to be very honest with both yourself and Graham here, Michael. I've not seen too much of Hearts. I'm going to be very honest with the both of you. But I can see what Stephen Naismith's trying to do. I think the Edinburgh derby was a step too far. I think it was just a premature description of what we were going to see. Because from the time that Robbie Nielsen went to the fact that Hearts had one of the biggest games of the season, it was never going to be the perfect outlook as far as Hearts were concerned. There was never going to be the painting was never going to be fully delivered. So I think there was a lot of criticism and a lot of question marks after that Edinburgh derby defeat for Hearts. But that was chapter one for Stephen Naismith. Chapter one. There was plenty of other chapters in which he could eradicate his fine work. As a book says, you live happily ever after. And that'll be exactly the case for Stephen Naismith if he goes against the job now at Tynecastle. He plays a good style of football, yes. I think against Celtic last week, I watched a bit of the game against Celtic last week, actually. I'll just remember that now. They were very, very competitive until Celtic got their opener. They were very competitive, and Hearts go back to their old selves again. Very, very organised defensively, got the front foot, asked Celtic questions in the forward areas, and did everything you ask of a team. So I think tomorrow we'll ask a lot of questions for us, because Hearts are a side that are within the periphery of Celtic and Rangers above Aberdeen, but they're not a side that's expected to really go and get points off of Celtic and Rangers. They are expected to go to places such as Paisley and Window. So tomorrow will be a test of mentality, character, and see if they're colossal in both boxes. If they can do that, they're sure to come away with all 3 points.
Okay, that is the Premiership preview, but also the Championship preview as well. Big game on tonight, as I say. Queen's Park against Packet. First of all, that should be some game, and the games tomorrow as well. Just run through the game. Falkirk, Airdrie, Hamilton, Arrow is tomorrow as well, and Craig, East 5 is the last game. Okay,
Michael,
Dave.
can I answer this question?
Yep.
Can I answer this question? It depends. I think it depends. I mean, disappointed in the aspect that Aberdeen obviously bounced back from all their disappointments and all their troubles. Because let's be honest, January was very, very troubling. There was no winter wonderland for Aberdeen, I can tell you that for nothing. After all the disappointing defeats that they encountered. I mean, Barry Robson's came in and delivered. But Graham, 5 weeks has derailed Hearts' season, hasn't it? Let's be honest. European football derailed Hearts' season, yes, but 5 weeks in February, March derailed Hearts' season. Because when October, November time, there's still a long way to go. But 5 weeks in February, March, when it's critical, has derailed Hearts' season massively. Now, there's still European football for Hearts, yes, but it's fourth a disappointing season. I think it depends who you ask, because Hearts fans, Robbie Nielsen wasn't Mr. Popular with Hearts fans. Naismith's getting a bit of a buy from Hearts fans again. He's getting a bit of... I think Hearts fans are beginning to see what he's all about again now. He's obvious. But then there's a question mark with Naismith as well. I don't think he justifies getting the Hearts job. I'm not saying that based on the football he plays. I'm not saying that based on the work he's done recently. I'm saying this based on Hearts being finishing 11th in the World League or something along those lines. That, for me, would be a bigger justification for me not to give Naismith the Hearts job rather than football played or, Heart Malovia Football Club need to be winning games. They can't be getting praised for playing good football. They've got to be praised for winning football games. It's exactly the same as Aberdeen. Dundee United. They're all getting judged and praised for winning and losing. It's these fine lines, these fine margins. For Hearts, fourth would mean that they've gone backwards to a certain extent, but at exactly the same time, it means there's a lot of work to be done. And in general entirety, it's a disappointing season, but at exactly the same time, they've done far better than Hibs' Dundee United's. And that could be what makes it deflects away, from the season that they've had, in all honesty. So, general conclusion, if you were to ask me for a grading for Hearts, I'd probably go and say B-. Would that be fair?
Ooh. There you go, Graham. Over to you to maybe throw the car out the window, or maybe come back down the. Well, no, you don't have to come back. Just have to go up to Dave's house, but you don't know where he stays. That's the thing.
Well, if the mobile phone, if he's not in the WhatsApp group chat, Michael, we know where the phone is.
Well, yeah. Let's move on now to we're going to finish up at 7 o'clock. Keep your comments coming in on YouTube, Facebook Live, and we can answer your questions until 7 o'clock. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Dave, because the nominations just came out this morning for the Manager of the Year. It is Skidden Albion's Darling Young, Dunfermline's James McPake, St Mirren manager Stephen Robertson, and Celtic as Angie Postecoglou, the nominations for the Manager of the Year. Dave, what's your take on the Manager of the Year this year?
I was having a really good, interesting discussion with somebody about this today, and I've kind of got to watch what I'm saying again because obviously I'm in the auspices of the SFA and the SPFL because of my role. But Andrew was obviously going to be a foregone conclusion because of obviously the job he's done at Celtic. He's done a tremendous job, and let's be honest, it was going to be a foregone conclusion. Wasn't it a formality because they've only been beat by St Mirren in the league. They're undefeated in all competitions until tomorrow against Rangers. Whether that keeps going tomorrow remains to be seen. We'll find out the question to that by tomorrow afternoon. They've obviously been consistent enough domestically, so there's no questions raised whatsoever about Ange Postecoglou. Stephen Robinson, probably one of the lowest budgets you'll see in the Scottish Premiership. Well documented their budget issues back in January. But that didn't derail them by any stretch of imagination. They kept on going, kept on winning games, and deserving top 6 place for St Mirren. Even when the going looked tough, they had a few disappointing defeats. So yeah, St Mirren kept going tremendously well. As far as Dan Young's concerned, they came from nowhere to somewhere because the Barton were. Let me get this right. The Barton were, I think, I might be wrong here. The Barton, I think, were 9 points clear at one point. And that just tells you how double the Barton's bubble burst. So that just goes to show you how formidable, how consistent Stirling Albion were. And it shows that Dan Young's a very good lower league Scottish manager because he did tremendously well with Albion Rovers, very well with East Fife, and he's continuing to hit that fine work at Stirling Albion. Now, he knows League Two inside out, and it was another accomplished success from Darren Young, so very much deserved from his perspective. Now, as I said in the League One part of the show, Airdrie is the best team I've seen this season, but their fan will know how to win games. Jason Pick plays the same way as they did under Dundee. A side that they're not a direct team, but they're a patient team. They're quite a composed team, both on and off the ball. They're quite a team that will be vibrant, and they're a team that asks questions in the right ways of as opposition defenders. And the Farmers haven't had a lot of 4 or 5-0 games this season, but they've had a lot of games where they've had 2-0s, 3-0s, late winners. Remember, they were 3-0 down against Airdrie, came back to win 4-3. So that just tells you how competitive and consistent Dunfermline have been. There was games there that had been under previous managers that might have lost it. So that just shows the job that James Pick's done. Now, there's only a category of 4 managers that you could choose here, but if I was to pick a 5th, it'd be Lee Bowden there because they were everybody's tip to be in the bottom 2 in the Scottish Championship this season. But what a job Lee Bowen's done at Ayr United. Taking the guy, Akinyemi, sorry. And obviously scored a lot of goals. Josh Muller's been a really good signing for Ayr. The guy Bradley Young, Mitchell Lawson. I like the guy Mitchell Lawson. Very good player. Which, yeah, it shows where Lee Bowen's been at because he's obviously raided the English market. He knows it very well. So that's obviously been a huge asset from his perspective. So Ayr have done tremendously well, and they've got a bit of time off before playing either Queen's Park or Partick Thistle, a game in which you'd fancy Ayr, whoever they play against. So I think if Ayr were to be in the playoff final, but in particular, it's massive. It's a massive improvement for Ayr because Ayr over the last few seasons have been 7th, 8th. They've been in the trenches of relegation. Now they're second because of obviously permutations involved in the Championship last Friday evening. So we balanced a tremendous job, and I've seen them a few times this season in the flesh, and they were very, very good at both counts. They wiped their both aside, winning 2-0. I think they hit Cole for 6, and I was at that game as well. So they've obviously been very, very good both times. I've seen them, and I mean, Ayr in a really, really good place. So hats off to them for that. And yeah, you're hoping they can continue that. But I don't know if you agree. I think the management race could be exactly the same as the player race. Now, there's obviously going to be trials and tribulations to that because if you look at the Premiership, let's look at the Premiership. Postecoglou, Robinson, could you count Michael Beale? Not really, because he's not really done enough at Rangers, is he? Robson, came in February. For me, that doesn't justify a whole season. So, I had that debate with somebody today, and he had that opinion, but for me, football changes within the switch of a clock, doesn't it? It changes within your phone going off. Things can change within overnight. So that just kind of tells you where football's at just now.
I think you could have put in Stuart Kittle in there if he was maybe in the job at December time.
Again, he's been in since February. If he was in all season and getting him all a top 6 place, you could say very deserved, in the product of football. But players and SFA figures aren't going to look at, and SPFL figures and PFA Scotland, they're not going to look at how people have got on since February. They're going to look at how teams have got on and how managers have got on since the Premier Sports Cup last July started.
And what do you think of the Player of the Year, Dave? It's Celtic top heavy. You would expect that, but on the outside in there is Van Veen, and obviously I'm the first one to put my hand up and say Van Veen didn't really score a lot of goals under the last Motherwell manager, but since Stuart Kettlewell's come in, he scored goals for fun every week, and that's why he's been nominated for the Player of the Year. I don't think he'll get it, but I think it's a big achievement for him, but also Motherwell that is in the running for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, as people know, it's obviously the players that vote for it, so that leaves us a bit surprised as to why Tillman was voted in all honesty.
Yeah.
But Van Veen has enjoyed another good campaign. Not as sharp as maybe the last few campaigns, but I get the feeling that Van Veen's needs to settle down to an extent. He's kind of done that really under Kettlewell. Hamill was quite an interesting one where he scored goals, but there was never that familiarity between player and manager, and you got that feeling that Alexander was exactly the same. I think he was on his way out under Alexander. So I think as far as Van Veen's concerned, I think there's obviously a lot going right for him. Kettlewell's been very supportive of him in his press conference, saying that, look, if any club wants him, Scottish football in particular, it's going to have to be a lot of money for him and player. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with what Kettlewell said. And I know age is just a number here, but I don't agree with it because of his age. I mean, you're not going to offer a player £3 million for a 32-year-old, are you? Unless he plays for Man City.
Yep.
500 grand maybe, a million max.
Do you think it would be a fair wrote a talk over the past 24 hours of Rangers sniffing about him, Dave?
Well, I think was it not Hearts that were thinking about him as well?
Yeah.
Which tells you because they're arguably, the Rangers and Hearts respectively, arguably have better resources, better foundations than Motherwell, a great community club, and we all know about the fine work they do in the community of Motherwell, but let's be honest, when you look at obviously all the accounts from surrounding Motherwell Football Club, all the accounts will tell you that Motherwell don't spend a lot of money in transfer fees, so that just goes to show you where Motherwell are at in terms of their financial demands and capacity to Hearts and Rangers, because let's be honest, go about what sources and people at senior figures at Motherwell are saying, if Van Veen was to leave, he'd probably be the highest paid player to leave Motherwell Football Club, which is quite astonishing, to say the least.
Okay, let's dip in to the women's game. Just before we do that, Dave, who do you think will win the player of the year? I have a feeling it's between McGregor and Kyogo, but I can't think who. Maybe Kyogo
Kyogo.
just edges
Kyogo.
it, yeah, by his goals, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, let's just move on to the women's game. And I'm glad that you're on tonight, Dave, because you cover the women's game every week. So we're going to speak about the women's game. First of all, last night's game, it was a very exciting game, actually, at Celtic Park between Celtic and Glasgow City. Glasgow City took the league at 1-0 at half time, and Celtic came back and won 3-1. Before we speak about the game, Dave, 9,000 get that game last night. But as I said, KB, before we came on air today, it felt like 17,000 or something because the noise that Celtic fans and Glasgow City fans created last night was a big achievement, and well done to everybody that went along. And yeah, it was a big moment for the women's game.
Yeah, and you probably haven't noticed it, but Rangers are going to play Glasgow City on the 21st of May.
Yeah.
20th Sunday at Ibrox, which is going to be another great occasion for the women's game in general. So that'll obviously be very, very good for itself. But in terms of Celtic, the great atmosphere, great result for Fran Alonso's side. And the Green Brigade was there, and it was great for Fran Alonso to be celebrating with the Celtic supporters. I don't know if you've seen the video, Michael, but Fran Alonso was giving it yes.
No, I was watching the game on Sky, right, and it was going absolutely nuts. You thought that Celtic won the women's, never mind the league, but you thought Celtic women's was winning the European Cup the way it was going on with 2 games to go.
Yeah, well, I see a few videos with him in hospitality as well. I mean, for a guy that's still got a title race on his hands, and let's be honest, Glasgow City are still in the driving seat here. Fran Alonso did look very excited last night, considering there's still a big title race to go. Because let's be honest, as much as that was a big result, a humongous result for Celtic, there's still a lot of football to be played. I mean, as I said to who did it? Oh, I said to somebody today, didn't I? That Celtic needed an 86-minute winner to beat Partick Thistle. I think Celtic have improved as a side this season. They've got a lot more experience now. They've got good players in good positions. They've got a good calibre of youth and experience, which is a very good thing. But I think for Celtic, I think I don't like to use the phrase and the cliches of they raised their game against the better sides because they don't. They're a very consistent side. But what I would say is that whenever they play Glasgow City and Rangers, there seems to be that extra euphoria about their play. There seems to be that extra, we'll give an extra 5 or 10% to their play. Whilst they'll play like St Partick Thistle, they'll play Motherwell, they'll play, to a certain extent, Hibs, and they'll struggle. They'll struggle to find that. They'll still win the game and they'll still get a positive result, but the struggle to get that final goal to maybe see themselves over the line and have to settle for maybe a casual 2-1 victory or a casual 1-0 where they've been good, but they've just struggled to have a bit of composure. But I think the last few weeks have shown them how good they are because they had an 86-minute win. So, but then gone 1-0 ahead as well. The tremendous win, which everything needs to know about the mentality, the character, and what they look for at Celtic. But Celtic obviously was a great crowd, a very good atmosphere. There was 9,000 there. But it was a great occasion for the women's game. But Celtic had a few big results this season. But I think this is the best title race we've seen in ages for SWPL because Rangers have had 2-0 draws against Hearts and still win the league. Right? That's something that's very, very much called for. Rangers piece, that would have been 4 points dropped and bang on the chances of winning the league. Now they're only, what is that, a point behind Glasgow City, which tells you everything you need to know about the fact that teams can still win this league. There's still a long, long way to go. It's going to be a very exhilarating title race, that's for sure. Glasgow City lost also a few big games. If we looked at the results against Rangers and Celtic, Glasgow City would be well adrift in the picture. But thankfully, obviously, Celtic have, from Glasgow City's perspective, thankfully, obviously, Celtic have obviously dropped points in games, vice versa. So, yeah, I still think there's a big sting in the tail to come. Everybody thought Glasgow City was going to be a foregone conclusion. It won this league 4 or 5 weeks ago. Look at it now. They're only a point clear of Rangers, and I think they're 2 clear of Celtic, which means one slip up and it could be catastrophic for a club come the end of the season. So, vitally interesting. For me, the Player of the Year awards were obviously, were obviously announced on Wednesday, I think. My understanding from Alan Campbell, the Scott Herald journalist, is that apparently it's only Celtic and Rangers that can vote for it because of the PFA Scotland situation. Which, if that's the case, I don't agree with it. And at exactly the same time, for me, Lauren Davidson should easily be in that category because she's a very intelligent player for Glasgow City. But for Jacinta, she's my player here. Jacinta would be my player here. The goals she scored, the contributions she's played for Celtic has been viable. But Celtic have got a lot of good quality over the park. Caitlin Hayes, Kelly Clark, Chloe Craig, Lisa Robertson. Lisa Robertson's had her best season for a long time in a Celtic shirt for me. They've also had Natalie Ross, she's been very, very good. And then they've had strikers that have just went to score goals. They've got the player Philby, Natasha Philby, I think it is. She's been very, very good for them as well. So they've got a lot of good quality and a lot of good areas, Celtic.
Yeah, no, just before we finish up tonight, I'll run through the game this weekend for you, Dave. It's Sunday. It is Murrow against Spartans. Hibs is at home to Celtic. That one is on BBC Alba. We have got Hearts at home to Rangers. That's on the BBC Scotland website. That one. Dundee United against Glasgow Women. Hamilton against Aberdeen at New Douglas Park. And another derby at the weekend, Dave. You've got Packet Thistle against, you've got Glasgow City against Packet Thistle, and these are all 4 kickoffs, apart from Hearts and Rangers kickoff at 3 o'clock. Hibs against Celtic is a 1 kickoff. That's a bit of a weird time to kick off a game, but anyway, and then next weekend is the final weekend, so it's very exciting, Dave.
Yeah. Last furlong for me, Michael, because we've done 1 hour 57, so last furlong for me, it's going to be an exhilarating last few weeks, isn't it? Because there's still a lot of football to be played. It's going to be an exciting title race as well. I think it's one of the best we've had in years. And obviously, there's Champions League places up for grabs. And Champions League football is massive for Glasgow City, Rangers and Celtic. I still think there's one big result in here. I'm interested to see where it comes from. Rangers against Glasgow City next Sunday. The fact is Ibrox will mean it's a very interesting title race. Obviously, Rangers held the upper hand early in the season when they beat Glasgow City recently. So, it's going to be vitally interesting. I couldn't call a winner. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I couldn't call a winner because you think you're going to call a winner one week and then they pick up one disappointing result. And then I thought Celtic were going to be the close runners to Glasgow City, and then Rangers go and beat Celtic on Sky Sports a couple weeks ago. So it's all for games, and this is where the women's game needs more coverage, but this is another episode for another day in terms of this one. But the women's game needs more coverage. I obviously helped Vinny Ferguson, who was on earlier on, and John Blaisdell on the SFF podcast, and we do a lot of good work. We're planning a cup final special for when that comes along, when the game gets played at the end of May. But as far as this is concerned, the women's games. I think Sky Sports has kind of helped that now. We're all very critical of the product, obviously what they produce to Scottish football, but I think that's kind of helped because it's brought a lot more investment into the women's game, and there's been a lot more publicity into the women's game as well this season. So that's obviously been a good thing as far as that's concerned. So hats off to them for that, and we'll make it continue.
Yeah, so it's been a very exciting season for the women's game and the championship and the men's game as well. Very exciting show. Thanks to Dave for joining me. Thanks to Vinny Ferguson for joining us early on. Thanks for all your comments on the old Facebook and YouTube. And we'll see you again soon here on The Locker Room. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.